My boyfriend called me a charity case in front of his friends and left me with a $400 bill. The next day, 15 missed calls woke me up. My world didn't just crack last Saturday, it shattered. I keep replaying that night in my head, the echo of his words a constant, dull ache in my chest. Did that really happen? But the glaring red of my maxed out credit card and the tear stains on my favorite hoodie are a brutal confirmation. It was real. For 2 years, Liam was my person. We weren't just a casual thing. We were a unit. We had our rituals. Lazy Sunday mornings with pancakes and bad TV. Tense but obligatory holiday dinners with our families, and that one disastrous attempt at a pottery class where my vase ended up looking like a melted gnome. I thought we were solid, you know. We were even talking about getting a place together after I graduated. Sure, he had his quirks. He'd leave his wet towel on the bed, hum off key while I was trying to study, and make these little suggestions about how I looked. "That top isn't the most flattering on you," he'd say. "Or maybe you should try doing something different with your hair." I told myself he was just being honest, that he wanted the best for me. Looking back, I can't believe how blind I was. Last Saturday, Liam invited me to dinner with a couple of guys from his new tech startup job. He'd always kept his work life separate, claiming it was a high-pressure environment, so I was thrilled to finally be included. I spent way too much on a new dress, a soft emerald green one that made me feel like maybe, just for a night, I could fit into his world. I did the whole 9 yards, smoky eyeshadow, the good hairspray, everything. I arrived at Aura, one of those ridiculously chic downtown restaurants where the menus don't have prices. Major red flag, I know. Liam was already there with 2 guys, Mark and Ben. The air felt thick with something I couldn't name. Liam barely looked at me, just a curt, "You're late," as I slid into the booth. I was 5 minutes late, thanks to impossible city traffic. He glanced at my new dress and smirked. Interesting choice. It wasn't a whisper. The other guys exchanged a look, and a hot, prickly shame washed over me. I tried to play it cool. "What, is there a secret dress code I missed?" He just shrugged and announced that they'd already ordered drinks. The rest of the dinner was a masterclass in humiliation. Liam held court, talking about coding and venture capital in a language I didn't speak. Every time I tried to add something to the conversation, he'd either steamroll over me or correct me with a condescending tone. I mentioned a funny story about a customer at the bookstore I manage, and he cut in with, "She works in retail, so she doesn't really get the pressures of the corporate world." He waved his hand dismissively, as if my job, my passion, was a cute little hobby. I felt myself shrinking with every passing minute. Was he always this arrogant, and I just chose not to see it? Then Mark asked how we met. I started to tell them the sweet story of how my best friend Chloe introduced us. Liam cut me off with a laugh. Chloe felt sorry for her, honestly. I was kind of doing her a favor. My heart plummeted. That wasn't our story. Chloe had warned me Liam could be a bit of a handful, but she thought his heart was in the right place. Spoiler. It wasn't. I mumbled an excuse and fled to the bathroom, my eyes burning. Hiding in a stall, I texted Chloe a frantic SOS, and then I saw it. Liam had just posted an Instagram story, a picture of their expensive cocktails, captioned, "Big moves with the boys," as if I wasn't even there. I felt invisible. I splashed cold water on my face, took a shaky breath, and told my reflection to just get through the night. When I returned, the laughter at the table died the second they saw me. The main courses arrived, and so did a fresh round of Liam's insults, disguised as jokes. My choice of risotto was apparently a lot of carbs for someone who doesn't go to the gym. Each word was a tiny, sharp jab. Then the check arrived. The waiter placed the leather billfold on the table. Liam picked it up, glanced at it, and then slid it directly in front of me. His face was cold. "You know what?" he said, his voice flat. "This isn't working." I just stared, my mind refusing to compute. "I've been trying, but let's be real. I'm moving up in the world, and you're not. We should just end this now." In a packed restaurant, in front of his smirking friends, after 2 years of my life. "Are you kidding me?" My voice was a choked whisper. He stood up, grabbing his sleek jacket. "A girl like you should be grateful for the time I gave you. You were a charity case." Then he and his friends walked out, laughing. I was left alone at the table with a bill for $412. The pity in the waiter's eyes was almost as painful as Liam's words. My hand trembled as I handed over my credit card, knowing it would be declined. It was. I had to use my debit card, wiping out my savings for next semester's textbooks. Somehow, I made it to my car before the dam broke. I called Chloe, my sobs so violent I could barely speak. She was at my apartment in 20 minutes with a tub of cookie dough ice cream and a fierce, protective rage that made me feel a little less alone. As I recounted the night through hiccuping sobs, Chloe's expression shifted from anger to something else. She started asking pointed questions about Liam's job, the startup, the big project he was supposedly leading. Finally, she took a deep breath. "Listen, there's something you need to know. Liam doesn't work at a tech startup. He's a junior sales associate at a call center. My cousin works there." The world tilted on its axis. The business trips, the late nights, the important meetings, all of it was a lie. I felt a wave of nausea. Who was this person I had loved? That night, I spiraled, digging through old photos and messages, the inconsistencies now screaming at me. At 3 a.m., a text from an unknown number lit up my phone. "Hey, this is Alex, Chloe's cousin. I heard what happened. There's a lot more you don't know about Liam." My heart pounded. This was far from over. Update. Thank you so much to everyone who commented on my last post. Your words of support have been a lifeline in this swirling vortex of chaos. You asked for an update, and honestly, the last week has been a movie I never wanted to star in. After discovering Liam's entire career was a carefully constructed lie, I went into full-on breakup hibernation. My apartment became a cave of blankets and empty takeout containers. Every time my phone buzzed, I'd flinch, half expecting a text from him, half dreading it. The silence was deafening. On Wednesday, my morbid curiosity got the better of me. I checked his Instagram. There he was, a new profile picture of him looking pensively over the city skyline, captioned, "Cutting off dead weight." I nearly launched my phone into a wall. Chloe came over that night, armed with pizza and a refusal to let me wallow. She'd been texting with her cousin Alex, who had become my unofficial informant. Alex confirmed that not only was Liam a low-level employee, but he was also on thin ice at work for exaggerating his sales numbers. Apparently, he'd been telling everyone at the call center that he dumped me because I was holding him back from his true potential. The delusion was staggering. Then the phone rang. It was an unknown number, but something told me to answer. It was Karen, Liam's mom. She'd always been so kind to me, remembering my birthday, asking about my classes. Her voice was laced with concern. Liam had told his family we'd had a, quote, disagreement, but that we were fine. A disagreement? He detonated a bomb in the middle of my life. I tried to be diplomatic, not wanting to drag her into the mess. Then she said it, "We're all so excited to see you at Liam's birthday dinner on Saturday. He told us you two have a special announcement." I choked on my pizza. He had told his family we were not only still together, but that I was coming to his birthday dinner to share big news. The audacity was breathtaking. Chloe just stared at me, her jaw on the floor. "This guy is a walking, talking psychological thriller," she said. And that's when the spark of an idea ignited in the ashes of my heartbreak. I wasn't going to be his victim. His family, who had shown me nothing but kindness, deserved the truth. I wasn't going to scream or cry. I was going to go to that dinner, and I was going to let Liam's tower of lies crumble under its own weight. I met Alex for coffee the next day. He was even nicer in person and seemed genuinely horrified by Liam's behavior. He filled in more gaps. The company car was his own 10-year-old sedan, and the team he managed was non-existent. As we talked, Alex got a text. His manager was asking for volunteers to work a few hours on Saturday evening. A wicked little plan began to form in my mind. What if Alex had to drop off some urgent paperwork at the party? That afternoon, Liam texted me for the first time. "Hey, last weekend got out of hand. I was stressed." That was it. No apology, no remorse. Alex saw the text and snorted. Stressed is when you have a deadline, not when you emotionally decimate your girlfriend. I left him on read. The next 2 days were a whirlwind of nerves and strategic planning. I went through my phone, screenshotting every lie I could find. Chloe helped me pick an outfit. The emerald green dress. The one he'd insulted. It was my armor. Saturday arrived, and my stomach was in knots. Liam texted again. Can't wait for tonight. Make sure you look nice for my parents. The arrogance was almost comical. Driving to his parents' house, I had to pull over to catch my breath, my hands shaking on the steering wheel. Was I insane? Maybe I should just turn around, block him, and disappear from his life. But then I pictured his smug face, telling his family another lie at my expense. My fear hardened into resolve. I walked up to the front door at 6:30 sharp. Liam's dad swung the door open, enveloping me in a warm hug. The familiar smell of his mom's lasagna filled the house, and a pang of sadness hit me. I truly cared for these people. I stepped into the living room. Liam was there, holding a beer, laughing with his cousin. The moment his eyes met mine, his smile vanished. He looked like he'd seen a ghost. Panic, pure and undiluted, flashed across his face before he masked it with a tight, fake grin. "You came?" he hissed, grabbing my arm. "We need to talk." I smiled sweetly, pulling my arm away. "Of course I came. I wouldn't miss your birthday for the world, especially since you told everyone we have such big news to share." The blood drained from his face. His mom clapped her hands, her eyes sparkling. "Oh, I knew it! Is this about a ring?" As everyone settled around the dining table, my phone buzzed. It was Alex. "Be there in 10. Liam leaned in, his voice a low threat. "What are you doing?" I met his gaze, my voice clear and steady for everyone to hear. "I'm just so excited to finally share the story of that lovely dinner we had last weekend, Liam. I'm sure your family would love to hear all about it." The look of sheer terror on his face was the first taste of victory. The game was on. The dinner party. The climax. The air at the dinner table was thick with a tension only Liam and I could feel. To everyone else, it was a happy family dinner. His mom, Karen, was beaming, placing a heaping plate of lasagna in front of me that, an hour ago, would have made my mouth water. Now, my stomach felt like it was full of stones. Liam was a mess. He kept trying to dominate the conversation with loud, fake stories about work, shooting panicked looks at me every time I so much as opened my mouth to ask for the salt. It was like watching a tightrope walker realize his rope was a piece of string. Karen, bless her heart, was in full, proud mom mode. "So Liam," she said, "tell your father about that big client you landed, the one from Silicon Valley." I saw a flicker of terror in Liam's eyes. "Oh, it's still in the preliminary stages, Mom." "Lots of NDAs?" he mumbled, shoveling pasta into his mouth. His dad, a quiet, thoughtful man, raised an eyebrow. "I thought you said the deal was closing this week?" Liam's sister, Jenna, who always had a way of seeing right through him, caught my eye from across the table. She gave me a tiny, questioning look. I knew she sensed something was wrong. That's when Karen turned to me, her eyes sparkling. "And Sabrina, Liam told us you have some exciting news to share. Is it about the two of you finally getting that apartment downtown?" The entire table looked at me. Liam froze, his fork hovering midair. My heart was pounding, a frantic drum against my ribs. I took a slow, deliberate sip of water. "Actually," I said, my voice surprisingly steady, "the only big news I have is about a very memorable dinner Liam and I had last weekend." I let the words hang in the air. Liam's face went pale. Before he could formulate a response, the doorbell rang, a perfect, piercing chime that cut through the tension. Karen went to the door, and a moment later, Alex walked in, holding a manila folder and looking apologetic. "So sorry to interrupt," he said, "but Liam's manager needed these signed tonight for the Monday morning meeting." Liam looked like he was about to be physically ill. He jumped up, trying to hustle Alex back out the door, but his dad stopped him. "Nonsense, son. Any colleague of yours is welcome here. Come in, Alex, sit down, have a slice of cake with us." Alex sat in the empty chair next to me, giving my hand a quick, reassuring squeeze under the table. Liam was practically vibrating with rage. That's when Jenna made her move. "So, Alex," she said, her tone casual but her eyes sharp. "You work with Liam. He must be doing great things. What's his official title over there now? He's so modest about it." The silence was so complete I could hear the hum of the refrigerator. Alex looked from Jenna to Liam, who was silently begging him with his eyes. I gave a tiny, almost imperceptible nod. Alex cleared his throat. "Liam is a junior sales associate," he said, his voice quiet but clear. The word junior hung in the air like a poisoned dart. Karen looked confused. "But the team he manages? The promotion?" Liam finally snapped. "He's new, he doesn't know what he's talking about." "I've been there a year longer than you, Liam," Alex said calmly. The whole fragile illusion shattered. Liam's dad put his fork down with a heavy clink. "Liam, what is going on?" Jenna turned her gaze to me. "Sabrina," she said softly, "tell us about that dinner." And so I did. I told them everything. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't cry. I just laid out the facts. The constant little digs, the public humiliation, being called a charity case, and being abandoned with a $412 bill that I couldn't afford. I told them how he'd posted on Instagram like I didn't exist, sitting right there beside him. When I finished, Karen's hand was over her mouth, her eyes filled with tears. Liam's dad looked at his son with a profound, crushing disappointment that was worse than any anger. Liam exploded. It wasn't an apology. It was a detonation of pure ego. "She's lying! She's making it all up to ruin my birthday!" he screamed, pointing a shaking finger at me. "She embarrassed me! She never fit into my world! A girl like you should be grateful for what you had," he spat, the ugly words from the restaurant now poisoning his parents' home. His mother gasped. "Liam," I finally stood up, my own tears threatening but my voice strong. "The only thing I'm grateful for, Liam, is that I finally see you for who you really are." He stormed out, slamming the front door so hard a picture frame rattled on the wall. The silence he left behind was heavy and heartbreaking. Karen was openly weeping. His dad looked a decade older. They didn't ask me to leave, they begged me to stay. We sat there, the five of us, his broken family, his brave coworker, and me, his ex-girlfriend, and ate birthday cake in a stunned, sad silence. It wasn't a victory. It just felt tragic. Later, as I was leaving, Liam's dad stopped me at the door. "Thank you for your courage and your honesty, Sabrina," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "I am so sorry for what my son did." As Alex walked me to my car, a final text from Liam came through. "You ruined my life. You'll regret this." I didn't feel fear. I didn't feel anger anymore. I just felt empty. I blocked his number, got into my car, and drove away from the life I thought I wanted, not knowing what came next. All I knew was that it had to be better than this. The aftermath. Final update. The next morning, I woke up to my phone vibrating off my nightstand. 15 missed calls. My heart seized, thinking it was Liam. But it was Karen, Jenna, and Alex. I called Karen back, my hand trembling. She sounded like she hadn't slept. After Liam had stormed out, he had gone on a terrifying rampage. He'd shown up drunk at the apartment of an ex-girlfriend I never even knew existed, screaming about how I had orchestrated his downfall. He had plastered his social media with vague, threatening posts about backstabbers, and, most terrifyingly, he had texted my home address to his friend Mark, telling him he was going to make me pay. Mark, showing a surprising flicker of conscience, had forwarded it to Karen. I felt a cold dread creep up my spine. Just as Karen was tearfully apologizing for the 100th time, my doorbell rang. It was Jenna and Karen, holding a box of pastries, their faces etched with worry. They filled me in on the rest. Liam had a history of this, of creating grander versions of himself to hide his insecurities. The lies were a house of cards that had been waiting to collapse. Then the doorbell rang again. It was Alex. Liam had been sending him threatening texts all morning, and he'd come to warn me. So there we were, a bizarre little support group formed in the wreckage of Liam's lies. The final straw was when my building manager called. Liam was in the lobby, yelling and demanding to be let up. The manager refused and called security. We could hear him shouting my name from my third-floor apartment. Tina looked utterly devastated. The chaos ended with Liam's dad having to come and physically remove his 28-year-old son from my apartment building's parking lot. It was the saddest, most pathetic thing I had ever witnessed. That was 3 months ago. Liam was fired, not just for his poor performance, but for harassing Alex and other co-workers. According to Jenna, who I still meet for coffee sometimes, his parents gave him an ultimatum: get intensive therapy or be completely cut off. He's now living with an uncle in a different state. His social media has gone dark. And me? The first few weeks were a blur of blocking fake accounts he made to contact me and trying to untangle the last 2 years of my life. But slowly, the quiet in my apartment started to feel like peace instead of emptiness. I rearranged the furniture, bought new paintings, and reclaimed my space. Alex and I have become surprisingly good friends. There's no romance, much to Chloe's disappointment, but there's a deep, unspoken understanding. We went through something crazy together, and sometimes we just send each other a meme and know exactly what the other is thinking. The other day, I was at the bookstore recommending a novel to a teenager about finding her own strength, and I smiled. I'm not angry anymore. I'm not even just sad, I'm grateful. Not for him, never for him, but for the lesson. For learning that my value isn't determined by someone else's inability to see it. For finding out that a girl like me is not a charity case. A girl like me is a survivor. And my story is just beginning.